podcast. This is Douglas Grummins. I'm working on some new material now. I'm writing my third book. My first two books did okay, but I think this third book is really deep, and I just wanted to share some of it on an audio because a lot of people are not reading that much into books and stuff like that. It's so much easier to put on some headphones and listen to audio. So here we go. I entitled this book Wheels. Maybe the name of the book might change later, but so far it's pretty much stuck with that. And the text goes like this. We live in time, day by day, from Sunday to the next Sunday, from January to December, and then the whole thing starts all over again. What is this repetitive cycle that keeps us in a subtle sort of sleep? We wake up and go to work every day. Then we go about our business thinking about this and that, trying to find the motivation to keep us working more. To me, those things all revolve around the ocean. To others, it is their families that keep them motivated. Whatever it is, somehow we keep our sanity, sometimes working 5 days a week, sometimes even more. Some really love their jobs and some do not. I apologize because I'm not a professional narrator, but I feel like I can do a pretty good job and share this work with you. Anyway, back to the text. Time can be viewed as linear, but since we start at 12 and end at 12, others see time as circular. Either way, we go on doing the same things almost every day in a repetitive manner. We create routines so that we do not need to be so aware. We love our routines. You know where to look for your keys in the morning. You know the best way to drive to work, and it has been engraved into your memory, so you do not have to think about it too much. We have put our souls on a sort of autopilot, not realizing the implementations that come from this lifestyle. We are born with the force of life, and this energy, this force of life, creates a sort of goodness in us. Most people feel this goodness, value life, and live good lives because of it. The majorities of people live a religious life and follow the rules set by society. These rules seem to help us go through life with ease, yet these rules also keep us from having to be too much aware. There are people chasing after better lives driven by ambition. There are people chasing after power. And there are people chasing after God, again driven by ambition. If anything is driving you, then the wheels are turning. These wheels are here for a purpose, and when we bring awareness and insight into them, then our lives change. They change because we have the ability to step back and reflect or witness our past. This ability to reflect our lives led many musicians to write deep and meaningful songs. I chose this song, Watching the Wheels, because every time I listened to it, it reminded me of ancient times, back to a time where men or women who were called masters dedicated their lives towards helping people get off of autopilot, or as John would have said, getting off the merry-go-round. John Lennon was a dedicated, influential musician. From his younger years with the Beatles, all the way through his solo career, his music changed the outlook of the world, possibly more than any other musician of its time. With the invention of television and the national radio platforms, the Beatles' craze gave birth to the world's first musical icons. These four very talented men embarked on an adventure which would consume 3 decades of their lives. In 1980, John Lennon took a break from the music industry, and during this break, he must have sat back and reflected on all that he had seen and all he had done in his life. While on this break, he gave us Watching the Wheels. Now, 24 years later, a slightly different kind of surfer, who also loves meditation, from Texas of all places, sat down to raise the question, what was John really singing about? Could he have meant something more, something deeper? What does John mean by watching the wheels? Come on a journey with John and me, and let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes. The first paragraph of John's song goes like this. People say I'm crazy, doing what I'm doing. Well, they give me all kinds of warnings to save me from ruin. When I say that I'm okay, they look at me kind of strange. Surely you're not happy now. You no longer play the game. And my response to that is like this. The text goes, I would like to share a story from ancient Taoist master Chang Tzu. It is called The Old Man by the River. I will tell the story as I see it, for it is my story as well. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there lived an old man who spent all his days down on a muddy river bank. Every morning he would pack his lunch, grab his fishing pole, and travel through the steep, muddy paths that led down to the river. Rain or shine, this old man would not allow his journey to be altered or deterred. In fact, he loved the rainy days just as much as the sunny days. The mosquitoes never bothered him too much, and the feeling of the drops of water touching his face brought joy to his heart. He knew that when the rains came, the birds would be singing, and beautiful songs for him to listen to while he sat on the muddy river bank. Every day, the old man would sit by the river casting his line. He was never bored from the same old routine because every day was filled with so much joy to him. He loved watching the river's currents. Sometimes the currents were strong from the falling rains way upstream to where the river started, just as a few small creeks way up in the mountains. These were the same creeks that where deer and other small animal would drink from the pure water. The creeks merged together as they made their way through the valleys and gathered strength, forming the mighty river where the old man liked to sit. One day, while sitting on the muddy river bank, two men dressed in royal cloth came down the narrow muddy trail to meet the old man, slipping through the mud, getting all dirty and mosquito bitten. They made their way down to where the old man sat. The two men addressed themselves as messengers from the royal palace. "I know who you are," replied the old man, "and I know why you have come here as well. The lord of your province sent you to call me back. He wishes my advice on royal matters, so his kingdom will prosper. Did he not?" "Yes, this is why we have come," they replied. "Our Lord has sent us to try and persuade you to come live with him. You will be very well rewarded and live like a king. Everything you could possibly ask for will be given to you." Without offending his messengers, the old man had to think of a way to send his messengers back without leaving the river. See, long ago, when the old man was young, he lived among the people studying the Tao. When was just a lad, he gained much insight and became famous for his knowledge of the way. As time passed, he was also known all over the world and all the land as a great sage, giving his advice to many a royal. He once had great wealth, but eventually found those things hindered his spiritual quest, so he left the city and moved to the valley. He left all that the city had to offer to spend his days sitting in the mud, casting his rod while watching the river flow. The old man asked the messengers, "Do they still use the tortoise shell in rituals?" In those days, priests would apply fire to a tortoise shell and read the cracks that formed in it, much the same way the Greeks used coffee grinds in the bottom of an empty mug to predict the future. The messengers replied, "Yes, they still use the tortoise shell in rituals." The old man then replied, "Which do you think the tortoise would choose if he had a choice between dragging his tail in the mud or being slaughtered to have his shell used to tell the future?" One of the messengers replied, "Well, I guess he would prefer dragging his tail in the mud if he had the choice." "Then I will say the same. I will stay here by the riverside and dragging my tail in the mud as well," replied the old man. Full of mosquito bites and covered in muddy robes, they left the old man alone. They went back and told their lord and proclaimed that the old man was crazy. There was no reasoning with him. For many of the same reasons, I left the life of the city and moved to be nearer to the ocean. I spend most of my days on a surfboard, and instead of mosquitoes, I have sharks. See, like the old man by the river's edge, I came to realize that there are 4 levels of spiritual understanding. The first level of understanding is belief. Some might ask, how is belief a level of understanding? I can say it is the first level of understanding because even though you are in the dark, you can feel a small spark inside. Others may argue, but it can be the first step in a series of steps that lead to the second level. This small spark is what gives millions of people hope. You don't know exactly what you believe in, a God, a creator, or simply that there has to be something more out there than just darkness. For so many people, this is where it stops. If you wish to remain on this first level of understanding, belief, then listen no further. close this podcast and don't come back and listen to it anymore, because I can be dangerous on that aspect. There is a certain bliss that comes with believing. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. What you're about to hear contains truths that were normally shared between a master and his closest followers. These followers we call disciples. So why am I sharing these insights? For the simple reason here in America, the age of the master and disciple relationship has become a thing of the past. In the past, followers of a master traveled on a journey. They started their journey out of curiosity, then they came closer to the master. As they drew closer, their love grew, and they became disciples. Some of those disciples devoted their whole lives towards understanding truth, and those few became what we call devotees. The master devotee relationship is the most unique relationship in existence. The journey starts usually with curiosity and ends in total devotion. Devotion is the ultimate of relationships. You can be devoted to the one you love, like a husband or a wife, but when your devotion is towards a higher love, then you are at the Everest, the highest point possible. One has to simply have an urge to attain such heights. So, I ask the question, do you need a master to attain those heights? And where does one find such a person? The wise ones say not to worry. You just head in the right direction and he will find you. When I say he, I mean all of existence will find you, because all of existence is what I call God. The esoteric, or the mysterious level, is the entry into the unknown. A large amount of braveness will be needed, and the ability to trust is a must to make it past the second level. I might also add a certain level of intelligence is needed as well. All these things can start with a spark and a step in the right direction. The first level. Again, courage, bravery, and intelligence can grow with every step taken. Every step will give you more and more. It can be gradual or instant depending on how quickly you move or how slowly you come into the deeper understanding. In the esoteric, one's beliefs can be transformed into something more. As beautiful as belief is, there are people out there who cannot settle for just a spark. Those people want to know if there is a God or a creator or something more than just darkness. This is where both the theist and the atheist are left behind. Up to this point, up to this point, all you have heard is believe this or believe what that fellow has to say without any inquiry. To pass the second level, an inquiry and effort will have to be made on your side. It is entirely possible that the secular atheist can move into the second level just as easily, and in some cases even easier than a theist can. Starting with the negative gives you a clean slate, like a black chalkboard. When you begin to move into the mysterious, your actions and thoughts are clear, like white chalk contrasted onto the blackboard. However great this advantage is, the atheist will be set back with a large stone in the road, and that stone is called reason. Especially the so-called new atheist, and now has a degree of science to lean towards his reasoning. These individuals call themselves free thinkers, and with the blackboard background, their thoughts are clearer than those of a theist. The problem is not the atheist, the problem is that he or she has to leave the mind and its reasoning. The vessel, the mind, is not large enough to encompass the truth without meditation. Without meditation, the vessel will grow, then the atheist will be able to grow. The mind will have more room and purity and will start to bloom. Still, I say reason will have to be left behind so you can come back to it once the transition occurs if you feel you still need it. I entered as a sort of theist, and one would think it would be easier to start with the positive rather than the negative. My theism gave me courage, but in all honesty, it hindered the complete cycle of all four levels. I would have to bring awareness into a subject and tell myself it's not about good or evil. These are divisions of the whole, and these divisions create a split in the whole. Other reasons starting with the positive can be harmful is if we look into the past at what the theists have done, it can create a distorted view of what we think God is. We have to ask ourselves, is there a singular God, a monotheistic view? If not, then we have to ask, which God? There are so many. I can argue that both are true, that God exists, and it is also true that he does not exist. I can argue it is both true that there is one God, and I can also say that it is true that there are as many gods as there are souls on this planet. It is 50% in both directions. Keep reading, I will explain. The second level, no matter from what aspect you entered, the goal is to transform your being. So people start meditating, practicing yoga, and or many other sorts of transcendentalism. There's Tantra or Zen or the mystical ways of the Sufis. The doors are many. Although many people start this journey, most never take it all the way. It takes total dedication to move beyond this stage. Many people who start this level of understanding are the types who wish for results now without having to truly get their feet wet. In reality, the seeker has to be entirely immersed with the unknown and completely open to the mysteries of it to pass beyond the second level. Out of every 5 million people who entered the second level, only a handful make it to the third level. The third level of understanding is what I call the level of crystallization. A Buddha, a Christ, a Lao Tzu, these are examples of individuals who have reached the third level. In this level, one goes deeper into the esoteric or the mysteries of life, reveal themselves in deeper levels. The third level of crystallization is for one who has come home, but they still must grow. Buddha once said, "I am only just born. I have so much to learn." And in the third stage, when one hears or reads truth, the understanding goes to their core. It's very deep. It's still there is room to grow. Some believe when a person becomes enlightened, all the mysteries of existence are embedded into that person's soul. This is true, but it depends on the capacity of the vessel. If the vessel can only hold so much truth, then it has its limits. The mysteries of the universe and existence are endless. This is why one must keep meditating to keep the vessel growing. Even though you have reached the other shore, life will always have a mystery about it. Enlightenment is like layers of an onion. You peel one layer to reveal yet another and another. The mysteries keep evolving, just as our souls keep evolving. The process is never ending. As soon as you realize one thing, another comes into sight. Once that new thing comes into realization, it sheds light into another new realization. It can be dumbfounding, even to the enlightened soul. And it is good that it is a continual flowering. This way life will always be fresh and new, never boring. The old fisherman was never bored, nor was Jesus, nor Buddha. So those who know and grew in wisdom and understanding have entered into the fourth level. That is the level of total acceptance. In the fourth level of understanding, one is able to simply accept the fact that life will always have a mystery about it. All we can do is live the mystery. It is a deeper concept than being one with it. You just become the mystery. You live in it, and in a way, forget about it. But not in a negative way. Lao Tzu called this type of lifestyle living in the Tao. Trying to explain it with words is almost impossible, so try to understand with a story. But I guess the story will wait for the next podcast because we're getting on, and we can't make these podcasts too long. If I make them too long, people will get bored and they won't listen to them. But again, thank you for joining me. Forgive the audio difficulties for the poor editing that I do. I will learn this program, and again, thank you for joining me. And remember, the journey starts with innocence and goes through 4 levels and ends right where it started, with innocence again. Only it is a gained insight in between the beginning and the end innocence. Thank you for joining me. Take care. God bless.